never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz in the house. That's right. It is Friday. It is a special tea time because we have a rescheduled tea time because everything gets busy in life, right? And we have the incredible Marlene Sharp in the house. We're going to be talking about Pink Poodle production. We're going to be talking about animation. We're going to be talking about neurodiversity. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. But before we get started with all of that tonight, we're going to get everybody over to Miss Liz's Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of those good platforms. You guys know where they are. Give that a like, follow, and subscribe. And we're going to get these tea times out because they do make a difference, one cup of tea at a time. So let's get started with disclaimer and then a little intro into Marlene. And then we're going to get Marlene in here. And we're going to spill her tea. And her tea tonight is Pink Poodle production. That's the type of tea we're serving tonight. So get ready for the Pink Poodle. We're going to get it really out there. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of this discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your decision and wishes and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, I want to welcome everybody back to Tea Time, where creativity meets conversation and storytelling becomes a bridge to understanding. Tonight, we welcome a woman whose work lives at the intersection of imagination, advocacy, and representation. Please join me in welcoming Marlene Sharp, CEO of the Pink Poodle Productions, award-winning producer, writer, and creativity executive behind beloved franchises like Sonic the Hedgehog and My Life as a Teenage Robot. Marlene is not just a force in animation, she is a champion for neurodivergent voices, inclusive storytelling, and building worlds where everyone belongs. Her work blends humor, heart, and purpose, and her advocacy reaches far beyond the screen. From scripts to story, from character to community impact, Marlene shows us that animation is more than entertainment. It is a powerful tool for visibility, compassion, and change. So grab your cup and settle in. Tonight we dig deep into creativity, inclusion, and the art of storytelling that reflects the real world where courage and heart is. And let me get Marlene in here. Let's spill some tea together.
Hello,
welcome,
Miss
Marlene.
Liz. Hello, thank you. And wow, what a beautifully written introduction and delivered too. Thank you so much.
I do my best to dig deep and go with the heart, right? and do my
Mission
homework on
accomplished.
all of you guys.
Oh my gosh, you definitely did. Wow, that was magnificent. Thank you so much.
So Marlene, let's start off with who were you as a little girl and who are you today?
I'm basically the same person that I was as a little girl. I'm just a 5-year-old in a much older body. But a lot of me did not mature through the years, for better or worse, I suppose. But um, I was born this way, meaning I always loved show business and performing and being on stage and making up stories. And I think it came from maybe somewhere in my DNA, but also my parents took me to children's theater when I was really a toddler. And so it made an impression on me. I felt like I was experiencing the story along with the actors. I had a hard time separating myself from the action on the stage. And then once I was done with being freaked out, I wanted to participate. I wanted to be part of the imaginary world. So that's how I remember being my whole life. And my parents have cassette tapes of me saying, you be in the audience, only I'm on the stage. And that's kind of the way I've lived my life ever since then.
So Marlene, how old were you when you got into this field?
I tried when I was 2 or 3 years old, as long as I was old. Well, when I was old enough to realize, I asked my parents. I love to watch TV, love to go to the theater, and I asked my parents a lot of questions about it. And so when I grasped the concept that show business was not really centered in New Orleans, where I grew up, and that it was elsewhere, it was in another place, you had to get on an airplane, go somewhere far away to actually go to Sesame Street or some such. I wanted to do that. And when I was old enough to read and go to the library, whether at school or if my mom took me to the library for fun when I was a kid, I would check out books on how to get your kid into show business and how to get an agent and this, that, and the other. And my parents were just baffled because what they thought was just a harmless pastime, giving me some culture and things like that, and giving me experience with the world. I really took it to heart. It's not like we had any other show business types in our family, or we did, but they hadn't really shown themselves at that point. So I wanted to do it, and my parents said no. And I pursued it as much as I could just through school extracurriculars and things like that. And then when I was in college, I went to college in New Orleans, at Loyola University, New Orleans, and I majored in drama communications, and I got an agent at that point. So there was a maturing of the entertainment business in New Orleans at that time. There was more location shooting happening, and the local incentives for filming had come into being. And so there were more things shooting in New Orleans. So I registered with, there was the Department of Employment or something like that. You could register with like the city office of employment, and you would get called to be an extra sometimes on various films. So I did that, and then I got an agent. There were a handful of agencies in town at that time, and so I would go on auditions and so forth. And then never really booked anything in New Orleans because I'm like the worst representative of the city ever for a variety of reasons. I don't really fit the mold of what they're looking for when they're casting there. And I'm not like in love with the city. I actually couldn't wait to leave. So anyway, didn't have much success in New Orleans. But then after I graduated from Loyola, I went to San Diego State for graduate school. I got an MFA in musical theater, and then started working professionally after I graduated, more or less. I I was working my very first job out of grad school. I was working as an agent assistant. Excuse me, an agent assistant, and the agency where I was working, because the pay was so incredibly low, they gave me this perk, which was I could be represented as an actor by the agency, and I could submit myself for consideration for various things. So I thought that was just a phenomenal perk until I actually got into the job and I started getting auditions and booking some things, and my boss got really angry that I was out of the office. So they extended the perk thinking that there was no chance of me getting anything and that I would just work for slave wages and be happy with that. But yeah, so I guess you could say that my early 20s was when I started. That's when my professional career started full time, and then I've only ever worked in the entertainment business, not just acting, obviously, because you would have seen me on the Oscars by now, getting my statuette for Best Actress. So that has not happened yet, but I did want to work behind the scenes in various capacities in the business, and I've been fortunate to be able to do that.
Lena, I like the word that you use, yet. She's going for that Oscar, guys.
Oh yeah. Well, I have to brag for a minute that my talent is playing the elderly. This has always been my talent since I started acting when I was in high school. I was always cast as the grandmother, the token old lady, and there's not a ton of roles for younger people to play older like that because there are enough real older people to fill those roles. So I'm just waiting for what I call my Betty White years. Like, when I hit 80 plus, I think that's really when the acting career is going to take off. And then I hope by age 80, I'm able to retire from the other stuff and then just give acting 100% of my attention, because that's what it needs. I have through the years, I have been able to book some really cool stuff, but it required me to have this secret life of sneaking away from my regular job, which was always working in the industry. And the horrible reality is that when you work in the industry behind the scenes, there is like zero tolerance for you to be an actor. Like the employers,
you're in this field and that's the only field you're
yeah. Like, do you want to be an actor, or do you want to be a producer, or do you want to be an actor or a development executive? And of course there are people, lunatics like me, who sneak around and try to do both, but it's difficult. And so I did it for a long time, and then about 12 years ago I hit a wall. I had a very difficult year, and a variety of reasons, personal and professional, and I just thought I can't run around like this anymore. It's too stressful, and I just felt broken. So now I am offer only, which means I don't go on auditions anymore. So I do stuff like this, Miss Liz. I do your podcast, do a lot of stuff for free because it's offer only, and my offers are mostly zero. But occasionally I do get paid, and I don't have to audition. And those are the roles that I'm concentrating on now. But once I get to my peak years, like 80 plus, then I can go and I can do the self-tape auditions and then go to callbacks on the studio lot and really just like immerse myself in it. But while I'm here, I should say all that belly aching, put that aside, because I do have a wonderful thing to boost today, to brag about. So I am involved with a podcast that has yet to premiere, but we're developing. Well, we actually recorded the first episode, and it's a commission podcast, meaning we're getting paid because there's an organization that paid my collaborators and I to produce this podcast. And so I am one of the on-camera talent, along with two gentlemen who are very esteemed. And it's called Mama's Boys. And it's a podcast under the auspices of FJMC, which was formerly known as the Federation of Jewish Men's Clubs, but now it's called Friendship, Judaism, mentorship, and maybe compassion. I don't know. I have a hard time remembering what the rebrand is, so apologies for that. But my co-stars are, well, actually the hosts and really the stars of the show are Rabbi Noam Raucher, who's the executive director of FJMC, and Emmy award-winning writer-producer Rob Kuttner. And so the show is about what it means to be a Jewish man today. And I'm neither Jewish nor a man. So I'm the resident righteous shiksa is what they call me. And so I'm kind of like on the Howard Stern show, he had Robin Quivers as his co-pilot to the lady who was his producer, and she would chime in here and there. So that's my role. And there is another female producer who's also a righteous shiksa, but she's decided she wants to retreat to the backstage more. So so she's going to be more of the engineer, and I am on camera. So I'm so delighted that I have that.
Yeah, because I did my homework on you, Marlene, and I found another podcast that you're a part of. It's called the Small Talk Podcast.
Yes, I do have that one. The difference is nobody's paying me to do that one. That one. So it makes a huge difference as to how enthusiastic I'm kidding, because it is a wonderful opportunity. And my co-host on Small Talk is Chris Palme, and he takes on so much responsibility as far as engineering and editing, which is not really my forte. I can do those things, but kicking and screaming, and he does them with joy and flair. And so so that's a wonderful outlet, especially because I'm able to bring friends and collaborators onto the show and then showcase their work, and everybody wins type of thing. But the FJMC podcast is called Mama's Boys. I can't remember if I said that or not. But Rob and Noam are the Mama's Boys of the title, and that one is a commission. So we were hired as Rob Kuttner, myself, and our collaborator Grace Fraga. We were hired as producers and talent to do this.
Yeah, when you get commissioned for podcasting, go for it.
Yeah, that's the goal. You put forth your own sweat equity and hope that someone will notice it to hire you. At least that's the way I look at it. Maybe some people are just doing it for fun, but if you can do it for pay, wonderful. That's really, really great. So I'm excited. And the great thing is, the best part, I did not have to audition. I did have to do a proposal. I had to do like a budget and a schedule, and Rob and Grace and I put our heads together for that. But I didn't have to jump through all the hoops of like, hi, my name is Marlene, and this is why I want the job, and me. I didn't have to do the audition thing, and that's a great relief. So there you have it.
So Marlene, where does Pink Poodle Production come in? What does Pink Poodle Production?
Oh, okay. So Pink Poodle Productions is a product of forced entrepreneurship, which means in 2019, I was the head of production for a Japanese video game company that it had an office in Los Angeles, which is where I live. And so I was working as the head of the film and TV adaptations of the various video games. So the company's called Level 5. So I was working on mostly animated shows. We had a couple of shows on Disney Channel, Yokai Watch, and Inazuma 11. And we had some other we had a Crunchyroll series called Snack World and from various other things. And then at the end of 2019, the home office in Japan decided that they wanted to close all the international offices. So our office was closed, and the Seoul, Korea office was closed, and the Hong Kong office was closed. And I didn't have another job waiting for me. So essentially I was unemployed. But what I did have was the website of pinkpoodleproductions.com. And I had set that up a few years prior when I was working for Sega, just because I could see the writing on the wall. There's a lot of turnover in Hollywood. Jobs usually don't last more than a year or two, even if it's not a project-based job. Even if you're hired as staff and it's supposed to be permanent, it's usually only until the next merger or acquisition, or some stinker decides that they want your job and they're going to push you out, or they're going to, make up rumors about you, or some form of backstabbing. So at that point, when I was at Sega, I thought it would be a good idea just for me to set up a website as a glorified resume type of thing. So I had videos, and it was a glorified resume. So I could point people to it if I was applying for a job or being considered for another job, and say, like, here's my portfolio of what I've done. And so so that's what I had waiting for me when I lost my job in 2019. And so I just decided, for the purposes of LinkedIn and survival, that Pink Poodle Productions would be my employer. So that's what it was. I changed my LinkedIn, changed everything, and I just started telling people that, I opened my own shingle, and it's called Pink Poodle Productions, and I'm open to doing consulting on merchandise-driven entertainment, video game-driven properties, marketing, PR, the whole list of skills that I developed through the years. And sure enough, almost immediately, I started getting assignments, and they weren't things that would help me to retire or anything like that. But I became a consulting producer on an animated YouTube channel that was doing quite well, and the owners wanted to enhance what they were doing and do more of it. So I was a part-time consulting producer for that. And then I ended up being retained by an Indian company called Rainshine Entertainment, and I was a consultant for a few months, and then Rainshine hired me full-time. During the pandemic, actually, they made me full-time, but I continued to keep my side hustles at the same time, because I don't really trust anybody anymore. And quite frankly, it's hard to make ends meet with some salary. Sometimes a full-time salary in one person's opinion is not a full-time salary in reality. So I was continuing to do other things, and then that job ran its course, and I've just continued to work through Pink Poodle Productions ever since then, since 2019. And I always carry a heavy, as many clients as I can jam onto my slate. I do it, and then occasionally I'll hire helpers for different projects, but I try to do as much as I can by myself. And with my dog, Blanche, she's my inspiration. She's the poodle of Pink Poodle Productions. She's also a part Bichon, so she identifies as both. And she is my faithful full-time employee, collaborator, partner, I guess you could say. And then, I work with various clients and collaborators as the projects and the opportunities come up.
Well, Marlene, we had some questions that came in, and I want to get those out to you tonight about
all of
the incredible stuff you've done. I have some little goblins on the side that are doing work for Miss Liz, and they do some research on all of my guests. So we get some questions. So I
Okay.
want to start off with Marlene. You've built a fascinating career in animation and entertainment. What first inspired you to step into this creative world?
I did not decide it. The universe decided for me. So my original goal, and really my only goal, was to be an Oscar winning actress. Like I really wanted to be, or if I couldn't be like an Oscar winner like Julia Roberts, like I think that she would be like the ultimate of what I wanted to be. But if I couldn't do that, then I would have settled to be like Tina Fey or Reese Witherspoon, like, you know, real cute comedic actress who get to like do her own projects and develop stuff and like pick and choose here and there and have people throw bunches of money at me. And that was really all I wanted. But what happened was there was a period after I worked for the talent agency of unemployment for me, and I registered with a temp agency, and the temp agency placed me. I worked at a variety of different places for a few weeks. It was just like filling in as an executive assistant, basically, here and there, different production companies and so forth. And then I landed at this place called Renaissance Atlantic Films, and I went into the office on the first day, and it was all decorated with Power Rangers doodads all over the place. And it turned out it was the production company that belonged to one of the producers of Power Rangers. It was not really shocking at all. But he came from the toy business, and I didn't know anything about the correlation of the toy business and entertainment business and how they've been commingled for decades, but it's only just like since the Barbie movie came out, or maybe Transformers, that the general public really woke up to it. But anyway, my boss, Frank Ward, at the time, he had been instrumental in taking Power Rangers from Japan and exporting it to the rest of the world. And but he came from the toy business, and so every production that he worked on, he was really looking at it through the lens of selling merchandise. Hence, you probably heard me say merchandise-driven entertainment, and that mainly is toy-driven entertainment. So TV and film and such that is meant to sell stuff, mostly to little kids or the families, the parents, and then for the little kids. So I went to work in his office as a temp, and then he had an opening for an assistant, a full-time assistant. So after 2 weeks, he offered me the job of the full-time assistant, and there was only one other person working in the office, and she was the director of development, and then him. So it was like three of us in this office, and then so I became the assistant, and we did a lot of pilots for shows that most of them never happened. We would do things, a lot of I guess you could call it service work for Bandai Japan. Bandai was the toy company behind Power Rangers at the time, and Bandai would send us footage of toy-driven TV series from Japan and things that they were making the toys for, and they'd say, what can you do with this in markets outside of Japan? So we would have to try to westernize these properties, and usually we'd make these pilots that would then be shown at New York Toy Fair to try to get licensees or other strategic partners behind it, so that we could build this ecosystem that would sell not just toys, but all kinds of merchandise. But it takes a lot of misses before you get another Power Rangers. So it seemed like we were forever making pilots for things that never happened, or we'd make the pilot and it would only ever be shown in people's conference rooms or at a trade show or something. And then, we would move on to the next thing. But I ended up working there for 5 years, and I've never really quit that business, especially working with Asian intellectual properties and westernizing them to be, and that's not to say that there's anything wrong with properties that come from Japan or Korea or any of these other countries. It's just that there's different standards and practices for children's television. So I mostly work in kids media, and it's very strict, especially for like your Disney channels and things like that, to put a show on and call it a children's show. There are stricter rules about kids content, and a lot of and stricter rules depending on which country you've got a deal in. So like the laws in France are different from the US, from the UK, from Japan, Korea. So the Asian countries tend to be more lenient in what passes for kids and family entertainment. They're okay with more violence and more mature situations, nudity, cartoon nudity, a variety of things. And if you want to try to get a global placement of your show and then the toys, you have to tone that down. So oftentimes it requires producers to pull apart the whole property and re-edit the footage, retell the story. I mean, it's more than just dubbing. I think the general public sees dubs that happen. You can watch something that's dubbed or subtitled on Netflix or what have you, and if you're not privy to the process, you might think like, oh, it's just easy, translation, slap those subtitles, or do the actors just jump in there, do a quick dub, and that's the end of it. No, it could take years to reversion a property, because you have to get approvals from whoever owns the intellectual property, and in certain countries, the creator of the property has rights to reject or accept the creative choices that are made. And if you've got somebody who's very proud of their work and they don't like the adaptations, they'll reject, and then you just have to keep going with it. So so that's the world that I entered a long time ago, and I've never really left completely. I've worked with properties from all different countries, and even some grown-up stuff too. When I was working for Rainshine, I worked on a lot of podcasts, commissioned podcasts, or things that we wanted to pitch as commissions. The company that I was working for was very accomplished in the world of podcasting, especially in India. So we would do a lot of presentations for Audible and Spotify in India to try to get those companies to underwrite what we were doing, so we could produce a whole series and not have to finance it. So that's kind of going into the weeds, but hopefully that answers the question of when. It was a long time ago. That's the answer. Long time ago.
Marlene, what do you like about the animation world?
I love the way that fantastical elements can fit so seamlessly into animated worlds, and it's oftentimes easier to accept things and suspend disbelief, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Suspend disbelief in animation. And I like voice acting. I have worked as a voice actor myself, and I think that's a lot of fun. I like on-camera acting too, and that's also fun. But and I like also that animation appeals to family audiences and kids, and I like that form of storytelling. I mean, I am a grown-up and I like a good true crime story. I mean, I am quite obsessed with true crime, actually. But then there is that other side of me that loves whimsical and toy-based. I'm a toy collector, lifelong Barbie collector, played with toys, still play with toys and collect toys. I love to set up my Barbies and my doll houses and like manipulate the furniture and stuff like that. And I feel like animation is a chance to do that, especially when you're working as a producer. It's like you can manipulate elements and create these perfect little worlds, and work with all kinds of characters that I would want to wear on a shirt or a bag or have the stuffed animals or the action figures or something like that. So yeah, I guess it's just another tool for storytelling, and you can tell different kinds of stories with animation.
So with the animation world, do you get into doing any of the designs, or you're just producing all of the animation, Marley?
So I've done a lot of different things in animation, but I'm not the person who will draw the pictures. That's not me. Although I do a lot of like I'll do social media content for clients, and I have like a whole suite of apps on my phone where I can like DIY and AI some quickie stuff. But if I'm working on a big property like Sonic Boom, for instance, so I was a producer on the second season of Sonic Boom. I also worked on Pink Panther and Pals and A Very Pink Christmas and Postman Pat the movie, and those are all animated properties where I was mostly doing creative development, which is usually the period of time before something goes into production. So like pre-production, there's creative development and then there's pre-production. So it's like preparing the designs and like hiring the people to do that stuff. So I function more as like a creative executive or a producer. So I'm like putting crews together. So I could put a crew together for different kinds of animated projects. And I could estimate the amount of time that it would take to do something, and put together budgets and schedules. And then also I am a writer. I'm usually not the person writing a whole script by myself. I'm usually fixing other people's work and doing stuff, also like pitch documents. If there's a company that wants to try to get stakeholders to invest, or distributors or networks or studios involved with the project, I'll be the person to put together the pitch materials. So like a story Bible or even a brand deck, because if it's merchandise driven, then whoever the stakeholders are, they're going to want to know the success of the brand beforehand, because they want to know that they will earn back the money of their investment. So yeah, and I also do a lot of PR and marketing. And those lines are blurred, especially in merchandise driven entertainment. So like when I was at Sega, for instance, we had a third party publicist who was responsible for getting press coverage in various different publications. But sometimes we'd have an activation that was going to happen. We were going to do something maybe at San Diego Comic-Con or E3 at the time that I worked there. E3 was still around, and we commissioned some kind of a press release, and we'd get the draft, and it wouldn't be right for whatever reason. And so I was quick with it, with just like, here, let me redo it, and that's kind of how I functioned in a lot of respects. Like I'll do that with scripts or story Bibles or premises. I'm like the resident person, the resident fixer, I guess you could say. I'm not going to go in there and fix the art, but I could probably recommend people who could do the art. But then when it comes to the writing, the story stuff, and also like the PR spin, that's where I can come in and jump in and, sprinkle some fairy dust and smoke and mirrors, and here it is now. It's fixed. So
Marlene, I want to get into the neurodiversity and inclusion. in the fields that you're working, what challenges do you still see in today's market?
There is still a lot of stigma about people who are on the autism spectrum as far as what they can and can't do, especially in terms of employment. But I think it's kind of human nature just to label and stereotype people, whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical. It's an unfortunate byproduct, I suppose, of just being a human being, just to put people in categories and boxes. So, but with autism, it's so specific to the individuals who receive the diagnosis. And also, there are a lot of people who are on the spectrum who are not diagnosed. And especially people of my generation and previous generations prior to me. And so there really shouldn't be any stigma, because I guess most everybody's a little bit on. That's why it's a spectrum. There's two extremes, and then there's everything else in the middle. But there still is, and I think it's based on fear and ignorance, just not knowing what to expect. So yeah, it's that perception. And then we are having a hard time in the entertainment industry right now. There's a lot of unemployment, and it's very difficult to advocate for a marginalized group. Even under the best circumstances, it's difficult to advocate for a marginalized group. But when people who are seemingly just average folks who shouldn't have any stigmas, or they should have no problem getting a job, and then they're having problems, it's very hard to. It makes it even harder, it seems, to come in and try to shake things up in any way. So yeah, it's just a challenge to get funding for special programs and incentives, and the DEI initiatives that were part of the studios in previous years are greatly diminished or non-existent anymore, and a lot of that included neurodivergent folks, and so it's just not there anymore for anybody. So it's just I think the more that we can do projects, whether they're funded or not, and just put stuff out there, put content out there, and just show talented people and not have any labels assigned to what they're doing. Just if it's just entertainment and people are watching it, then they don't need to know. They don't need to know everything that's going on in the personal life of the person who is acting or performing. They're just having a good time. So those are the kinds of projects that I like to work on, not the ones that are preachy about like how you should love everybody and stuff like that. And there's a time and a place for that, but my preference is just to lead by example, I guess.
Yeah. And that's why I like having guests like you on the table, at this tea time table, because we get real facts out there. We get real information. Everyone thinks fame is easy. It's hard. It's a challenge. Like you said, that at most 1-year contracts, it's really hard. And that's what I want my listeners to understand is there's a lot of work that goes behind these incredible shows and these cartoons and movies, and that no one is realizing that it takes hundreds of people to put something together. What was one project that you worked on or collaborated with Marlene that really stood out and made a difference in your life?
Oh, wow. Well, everything that I've been doing with autism and entertainment has been very impactful. And it's in the past 2 years that I've been involved with autism and entertainment. So it's an umbrella organization where there are a lot of educational and business partners under that banner. But we put on the first ever Autism and Entertainment Conference last year in April. And we've been trying to continue the mission of the conference because we were fortunate to get a grant from the state of California to put on that conference, but it was a one-time grant, and we haven't been able to manage to get anything near that in the meantime. So we've relied on the kindness of strangers and just putting the word out there and hoping that people will give us gifts and so forth. So we've had angels come forward with lots of opportunities. So one of the things that I love is our relationship with the Laugh Factory here in Hollywood. So the Laugh Factory has allowed Autism and Entertainment to produce Neurodivergent comedy nights. And we've done 4 so far, and we've got a couple more planned for next year. And we've had different formats for each show, but it's just getting out there, and we're just like, we're putting together the show and throwing people out there on the stage who want to perform, obviously. But it's just, we call it a neurodivergent comedy night because we try to make it comfortable in the audience for people on the spectrum, and we're mindful of people's limitations and so forth. But otherwise, it's just these evenings of great entertainment, and most of the performers are on the spectrum, some of them aren't. And those have been really fun and rewarding, and have led to so many other different things that I wouldn't have expected. So yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was in my notes over here, and as soon as you said it, Laugh Factory, it's like, okay, check. She's talking about it.
Yeah.
Also, I found the Center for Learning Unlimited. What is that about?
That is my gateway into the autism community. So the Center for Learning Unlimited is a school in the South Bay of Los Angeles. It started probably 25 years ago as a K through 12 school for children with autism. And then about, 7 or 8 years ago, the woman who started that school decided to open a separate program for adults on the spectrum, adults who wanted to learn about animation and potentially use their artistic skills in a careers in animation. And so I had a friend who was teaching art for that program, for the adult program. And during the pandemic, there was an opportunity for me to come in as a consultant, because they really wanted somebody to work with the graduating class on job readiness and what to expect once they were finished with their studies at CLU. So I became the first entertainment industry liaison for this program, and I was given a lot of latitude to it was a lot of trial and error and throwing spaghetti at the wall to see because when I went in there, the students had not ever collaborated on anything before. They were just given individual assignments, but they had not ever worked as a crew. And so I just made some observations and flew by the seat of my pants. And then we started a studio, a for-hire animation studio with the graduates of the program. And that's called Brainstorm Productions. And so CLU and Brainstorm are still operational. They have a slightly different business model than when I was working with them a lot. They're more insular now. I was doing a lot of work with clients and getting work for hire projects into the studio. Now they're more focused on doing their own original projects in the studio. But that's how that experience opened my eyes to autism and folks on the spectrum. I didn't know anything about that when I started, and it was just immersion into that world and just falling in love with the population and the talent and the enthusiasm and the raw honesty, the childlike innocence of a lot of them, and so that has led me to work with other similar organizations.
I think it's pretty cool because everything you're mentioning, it's in my notebook, and I'm like, did somebody give Marlene my notebook?
Well, it is me, so I guess it's not that crazy.
So Marlene, how do you use humor and heart to break barriers in the entertainment fields and that? Like, do you go in with like a crack a knock joke or something like that? Like,
Um, not knock jokes. I can't remember jokes that well. So I did do stand up for a while, and the stand up has its own formula, and I had to learn to work within that frame. But if I'm just in real life, I just kind of say stuff and try to edit myself as best as I can. But I was, like I said before, I was just born this way, and my mom and my late grandmother were the same way. Like, people just find my tragedy to be humorous and just like to, I don't know. I'm just like, I didn't want to be the funny girl. I wanted to be the glamour girl, but alas, that is not how I was born. So I got to be me. I like to laugh, and I do try to use humor to diffuse situations for sure. But I mean, I don't really feel like I'm forcing it. Like, that's just the way things come out. And
I think it's a good quality and skill to have because not everybody can come in and make somebody laugh. I like it.
yeah, it's like taking lemons and making lemonade is one of my favorite expressions. And no, humor is not really a lemon unless you're trying to be serious. And in that case, if you're trying to be serious and people are laughing, then just go with the flow. So,
Marlene, let's talk about Comic-Con. What did you get from that? Like, what experience was that for you?
oh, you mean San Diego Comic-Con? Because there are many.
Yeah, there are many out there.
There are many cons. But San Diego Comic-Con, I would think, is the granddaddy of them all. And I have been a frequent visitor for the last 20 years, at least, maybe longer than that. And but for work, I don't really go to cons just for no reason. There are a lot of people who do it for fun, but to me, that's work. I'm usually there. Well, first of all, it's expensive, so I that's not how I would spend my money. I need to like curb my enthusiasm for buying stuff and like toys especially. But yeah, I've staged a lot of events at Comic-Con. There's so much work that goes into those cons when you're exhibiting for an employer or an intellectual property. And there's also, even if you're not staging something, an activation or a party or what have you, if you're just going there and you've got an agenda and you're just taking meetings and things like that, it's still a lot of work. So it's always a business trip for me. I've never been to any. When I was little, I would go to doll shows, and that was fun for me. But as soon as I started working in the intersection of toys and entertainment, it became all work all the time.
Well, Marlene, I have a question here for you. If you could be your favorite animated character that mirrors your spirit, what would it be? And who would it be?
Oh, I just love Snow White. I love Snow White because I love vintage things, and then also I feel like Snow White is relatable in the sense that she's a brunette princess character, and I feel like I'm a brunette princess at heart. And I just always loved Snow White. And when I was 5, I had a Snow White birthday party, and I don't know, there's just something about, she has that it factor, that cartoon it factor, and one of Walt Disney's classics, of course. So yeah, so Snow White.
And dream collaboration, living or legendary?
Oh, I am living my dream collaboration now. My collaborator, Rob Kuttner, he is the collaborator that I always needed and didn't know it until I met him 2 years ago. And it was it was when I was putting together the Autism and Entertainment Conference. It's kind of a whole long convoluted story. And truth be told, I do need to go soon because I've got a Zoom that I have to do. But anyway, Rob Kuttner and I worked together on an animated series called God's Gang. And we've been able to hire a number of neurodivergent actors for God's Gang. And he's the writer, and my title is head of intergalactic marketing. So, and sometimes the lines cross and the lines blur and stuff like that. So I've gotten to do a lot of different things with God's Gang. But Rob and I have started another production company called Cut Sharp Productions, and we've done so much with the autism community. And Rob is an alum of late night TV, so he's done a lot of things that I aspired to do. He worked on The Daily Show and Conan O'Brien and Dennis Miller, and he's written a lot of sketch comedy, and he's actually the reason why I have the relationship with the Laugh Factory. So he opened that door, which has then opened other doors. So I feel like that's my dream collaboration. It's happening right now. Oh, and I'm working with him on this podcast, the one that I told you about before, Mama's Boys. He's one of the co-hosts, and he was responsible for bringing me into that project. So yay for that dream come true.
So Marlene, when is Mama's Boys coming out?
That's a good question. It'll be 2026 for sure. Okay. I'm thinking first quarter of 2026.
And what final message would you have for everybody tonight who would like to get into this field or know more about this field? Where could they go?
Well, I encourage people to do as much networking as possible. And LinkedIn is a great tool. That's how I got my job at Sega, was through LinkedIn. A recruiter found me. Of course, there are job postings and you can apply to them. And I've done a ton of that too. But in the case of Sega and other things too, I've gotten other consulting opportunities there. And then also my job at Level 5. So 2 full-time jobs that lasted for more than 2 years each came from recruiters just finding me on LinkedIn. And excuse me, I think the reason why they found me is that I'm so present on LinkedIn. I'm always posting but more so than look at me, I try to acknowledge other people's posts because let's face it, that's why everybody's there. Everybody is there to get noticed. So the more you can notice what other people are doing, then it reflects positively on you. So
it shows a good lead by example, right? Like
yeah. It's just the golden rule. It's not anything profound or groundbreaking. It's just treat others the way you would like them to treat you. And of course, you would like somebody to say, "Oh, yay, good job, Miss Liz," or "Good job, Marlene," on that post. And I so enjoy everything you have to say, and I look forward to that. Just like nice, since it helps if it's sincere. If you don't 100% feel it, you can try to be sincere, but
just be nice, be kind,
just be nice. That's it. Yes, that's all you need to do. And no, that's not saying that like just do it and it's magic and it happens. And for God's sake, you won't feel like doing it all the time. That is for certain. But just try to power through it and also realize that everybody seems to have challenges. Even the most successful movie star or prince or princess, anybody who seems like they're leading a charmed life has their own struggles. If not now, then they will at some point. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Marlene, if anybody wanted to reach out to you or to connect with you or to learn more about what you're doing, where can they reach you? And if you could spell out your website so that my audio listeners can reach out to you.
Okay. Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn, and I'm just Marlene Sharp on LinkedIn. So please come on down. And my website is www.pinkpoodleproductions.com. So pinkpoodleproductions.com, pinkpoodleproductions.com. And I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram and X, but I really put all my emphasis into LinkedIn. That's awesome. Where I really spend my time, because I've seen the payoff from tending it like a little garden. You know, you tend to it a little bit every day, and then you will see some blossoms.
Absolutely. Got to water those seeds on LinkedIn, because that's where the opening doors are. I'm just going to do a closing summary of tonight's tea time, and we'll be back next week, and we'll do this all over again with all of you guys. What an inspiring, uplifting tea time, Marlene. Thank you for bringing your brilliance, your humor, and your deep commitment to representation to the table. You reminded us that stories shape how we see ourselves and each other. When we create with intention, we create a world where every child, every mind, and every identity can find their place. Tonight, we learned how advocacy and creativity walks hand in hand, and how inclusion becomes a reality when people with courage lead the way. Your work proves that storytelling is not just art, it is an impact. Everyone watching, may you leave this tea time ready to amplify voices that often go unheard, to celebrate difference, and to honor the power of stories that make room for us all. Until we gather again, keep creating, keep including, and keep serving change one cup at a time. And I'll see everybody next week, same time, same place, and we'll do this all over again.
Thank you, Miss Liz. That's just absolutely beautiful what you wrote. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, dear.